The mistake I made recently is still following me in my novel writing progress, and I want to talk about it today. Welcome to Writing Through It, where we explore stories, the self, and the strength to keep going. My name is Eric, and I want to talk to you about the novel I'm writing. I made a recent video that was talking about the progress of where I'm at, where I was writing in multiple different documents and editing here and not having a cohesive book narrative place where all of my ideas were new and fresh, and there were these overlaps, and I sifted through all the chapters, I think it was like 5 or 6 of them, to try to collate them into the correct updated draft so I could submit to my writing group so they could review it and read it and it would make sense to them. I thought I did this, but this is one of the great things about having a writer's group, to look at your work because they can figure out that you didn't. And one of these comments I got last night, it was embarrassing because it's such a simple thing. Like, it didn't need to happen, and I thought I was clear of it, but the way I reviewed, it didn't catch it. So basically the criticism was, this seems like a repeated paragraph. And I went back and I looked, and it literally is, the paragraph is here, then it's right here again. So I had copied and pasted, but I forgot to delete this one and replace it in the document I was sharing. So now that I think about it, I didn't go back and look at my official document that I have saved in my hard drive to see if that is actually updated. 1 second. Let's go back to the original document that the critique was given in. Am I even in the right chapter? Right, chapter 3. That's why. I was like, it's not even in chapter 2, and like the search where I do like the control F to find the repeated sentence in the original, the critique document. I went to my original document and I was in the wrong chapter, so I was like, it's not even in here. I must have deleted everything. So it's a bigger problem than I thought, but I was in the wrong chapter. So let's try this. Chapter 3, secured. There it is. Okay, let's see if it's repeated here. One security will weird blah blah blah. One security weird. Yep, I didn't do it. I didn't fix it. Oh shoot! And which one did I keep? I have to go back to a document that was critiqued and see which of those paragraphs I picked. 1 minute. This is funny because this is the problem. Is I didn't know how to put my one document into the group document, so I copied it and made a new document and pasted it there. So when I make these critiques and edits, I do it there and I translate it to the other one. And if I don't do it right away or in the correct time, I don't know, I just keep screwing it up. So this is another example of, I did this morning and I forgot to recorrect it in my actual saved official novel document. And now I have to go back through my mental process of what one I chose and why. Because it's 2 different versions, I realize, of the same thing. And sometimes I'll go through that where I'll rewrite the paragraph and stack them so I can go line for line and compare and be like, this one works, this one doesn't. And then sometimes I'll even combine ideas from one paragraph to another into one unified paragraph from 2 examples, usually after some kind of critique where it says it doesn't work. So I just got myself in a situation. Once secured, he willed his weary body to pack any exposed seams with snow to further guarantee any passerby would fail to notice its existence. To Bram, assurance was a precious commodity, rarer than food, rarer even than fire. Or, once secured, he willed his weary body to pack any exposed seams. So I'm there, right there. I'm the same. That I can delete. That's exactly verbatim. Okay. Do you mind if I take you through my process? I mean, just skip through this part if you don't really care. Seams with snow to further guarantee any passerby would fail to notice its existence. Exposed seams with snow to further guarantee its existence. Is this the same? Okay, delete. Is it literally the same? And I'm just dumb to not notice it. To Bram assurance was precious commodity, but such diligence had a cost. Oh, here we go. So this is where it's different. So what I have to decide between was a precious commodity, rarer than food, rarer even than fire, or but diligence had its cost. The fatigue from even a brief fight on the docks had left him with little remaining energy. The mental efforts to perfect his illusion drained the rest. Okay, so I think what I'm getting at there is maybe over-explaining something that doesn't need to be explained, so I switched it to this. It's a precious commodity, it's rarer than these things. But at the same time, food in this novel is a different concept. It's not the traditional. So in writing, you create this world and it has its rules and it has its lore and you do world build to show the audience that. But sometimes when I'm writing, I'm still bringing in ideas from outside that world that would make sense to me and you in a frozen Wisconsin winter. But food is a different concept in my novel. And just to give you a little glimpse, there is no food except for snow, which is this magical curse that has frozen the land and has given enough sustenance and hydration to the wanderers to eat the snow, but it never satisfies them fully. It keeps them just above misery. So they're uncomfortable, but they're never full. No matter how much they would eat, it never satisfies that hunger. So it's sort of like this penance type of thing. So for me to say it's a precious commodity rarer than food, fire makes sense. So I might take out the food because then it would be was a precious commodity rarer even than fire. Then instead of saying, but such diligence had a cost. The fatigue from even a brief fight on the docks had left him in the mental. So that just goes on too long. I think I can cut that and just leave it at I don't have to tell you why he's tired because he just got done with a fight. Spoiler alert. Oops, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that. And now I need to remember to export it because this isn't where I save it. So, okay, so here we go. I did that. Thanks for joining me on that little process, a little journey towards my writing process, and how I screwed it up all the time. And I'm sure I will again, because part of this is being aware of my screw-ups, but then also trying to do things differently so I don't. So one thing I've done is I renamed this document official, chapter 3 official. And then the document in my writers group is W3, meaning writers group 3. That way I'm hopeful to at least be indicated, because at first it was chapter 2. So there's nothing in me that knows which document is where. So I was like, that's a really simple thing to make me make a mistake. So I can change that. The problem is I still find ways to make mistakes, and I'm still fixing things that were mistakes. And so when I go back here, I'm finding a mistake. People are pointing it out, which is why it's good to have beta readers. And it's I'm so grateful that I do, because it's a lot to ask people to read even 3 chapters of your book, especially if it's maybe not great. I don't know. I love it, but do they connect with it? I don't know. It might not even be their style. So there's all these things that make it difficult to show someone your work and then listen to the feedback and try and give them what you need from them to say, hey, I don't need just praise and affirmation, but I want to know if you're connecting with it. And if you're not, if this is just like, no, I only like historical fiction and this is a fantasy novel, so I'm not going to connect with it. So I'm going to just give you some kind of structure critique, not like, oh my God, I'm so wrapped up in this novel, or you're really pushing me away with it. Setting those standards, expectations is really important. But you can get so wrapped up in rewrites and tweaking the structure of a paragraph, and it means so much to you as a writer, but it doesn't necessarily translate to the reader. I can't tell you that the paragraph I just spent a couple minutes with you here reworking and deciding which was the best way to write it would make a bit of difference to you. It's not going to be the thing that turns you off. It's not going to be the thing that pulls you in, probably. Ideally, if you made it to chapter 3, you're already invested. But I can get lost in those things and want it to be perfect. And I realize that I'm in chapter 11 just starting it, and I'm going back to chapter 1 and rewriting as I get critiques. So all the way through chapter 4, I'm going back and rewriting. And I easily can spend a whole morning getting lost in that and forget to make progress on the novel. So I at least can judge the totality of it and decide more clearly what I need to go back and address. Because then I'll know where I'm going completely, and I can start seeding out things or realize that this isn't really foreshadowed enough, or I need to develop this character because there's a reason you're not connecting with them, and it's because I haven't developed it, because I'm still just architecting the story, building the world. And once I've done that, I find it a lot easier to go back and give some extra lines, give some actions that showcase who these people are. But I'm still not there, and showing that to the writers group has been helpful. But I'm also, right now thinking like, well, what is good enough to show them? Because I know there's some really short chapters that I plan to go back to and build out a little bit more. I just wanted to get the general bones down, and that might be good enough for them to say like, the structure works, but I want more of this. I want to know what he's feeling or she's feeling, or whatever, the scene calls for. They want a little bit more understanding and to get deeper into this moment in this way. And that's helpful because I can go back and redo that. And I'm working on it. I really am. And this does help me, having a daily ritual, but I'm going to screw it up. And I think you're going to screw it up in certain ways, and they're going to screw it up in certain ways. And that can't be our determinant as to whether something is worthy of us doing or if we are meant to do it, because we're going to screw this up. It's just letting that screw up hit you like it hit me. And the other day, yesterday, actually, it hit me because I thought I deleted the ending of a chapter because I was doing the same thing. I was copying it from here, from this document, and putting it here because I made corrections. But I realized, I was like, oh shoot, I didn't hit Control C to copy. I just hit Control V and duplicated what I already had written. So it just duplicated the whole thing. And then I was scrambling because then I reopened the document and it was gone. But the only good thing was that I still had an old window open. Yeah, because I have like 5 windows and I shouldn't. But this time it saved my butt because I had an old window where that still was the same and I could quick copy that and paste it into one of the documents. So I at least had the ending the way it used to be of that chapter. And I'm talking like 3 pages worth of written work that, will be retooled, but to lose it, I'm like, I don't know if I'd remember what I wrote. And yeah, I would write it again and maybe it would be even better. I don't know. But I just sat there when I realized the mistake and just was stunned in silence, and I let it happen. And that's what I want to say. A lot of times when we get stunned by something in life or in our creative work, we can either fight against it to ignore it and just like push through it, or we can be completely ruined by it and walk away from the thing because it's too overwhelming. What I've found is oftentimes I need to let that live in me, let that feeling exist for a minute, 2 minutes, whatever it takes, and then not walk away from it, but then start to take action and do something about it. A greater example of this was when I was making a documentary and I was in the field doing this really emotional scene and realized that the battery was dying for my camera. So seeing that, and this thing is playing out, I can't replicate this moment. I grabbed my cell phone while I was also filming with one hand with this camera that I'm using right now. On top of the screen, the monitor, I held my cell phone and recorded on that. And soon enough, my camera died. And all I was filming was on my little old phone. And I got the moment. It wasn't great, but I got it at least enough for it to work. Then I went to the people's house and I interviewed this family. And it was also a very emotional thing. This is like 8 hours away from my house, so I'm not going back if I get something wrong. So we spend hours doing these interviews. And, I take the SD card out and I put a new one in for this new interview. And I had them on the table, but I had them unsorted. And I don't know what I was thinking, but I re-put in the SD card that had that scene, that little bit of the scene that was recorded on my camera, as well as half of the interviews and all of the B-roll I shot of coming into town and at their home. And I didn't know that until I got home and was offloading footage. And then I realized I didn't have the footage I filmed. I had a fraction of it, maybe 25% of the interviews. And I freaked out because I deleted it. I recorded over it and I sat there for 3 hours searching the SD cards, retrying it just in my basement alone, like in tears practically, because I made such a huge error. And once I finally accepted it, I knew I'd have to contact my people and like let them know what happened. And I was so afraid of that. And it sucked. The conversation was hard, but we moved on from it. And I still was able to salvage something and make it usable. It just wasn't going to smoothly fit into the documentary as a whole. But it made for a fine 7-minute mini short documentary side piece. But that was a huge lesson for me, to be diligent. And I still struggle with it. But I know those moments are foundational to making changes. I just hope that your mistake, that my mistake, doesn't cause too much discomfort in other people. It doesn't influence things too poorly that it breaks whatever we're doing. So as a writer, as a creative, as I work through my novel, there's a lot of these moments that are coming up where they're super stressful, but there's so many moments where I'm super inspired and I'm having a great time. Like I can't stop, won't stop, and I just want to get to it and write all day. But I have other responsibilities and I can't write all day. Anyway, I'm just trying to let you guys know I'm struggling at times with this writing stuff. I'm screwing it up. No one's doing it to me. I'm doing it to myself. And sometimes I get so locked up that I don't even know how to write a paragraph or communicate it. So I just have to get crap out onto the screen, onto the page, and then come back to it later and maybe have someone give me some insight. Like, hey, how can I reword this? And then they give me something. And I'm like, that's it. That's beautiful. And now it's a part of my book. I mean, if it makes it the final edit, but it's in there now and I love it. And it inspires me to think about how I can better craft sentences and paragraphs. So I'm going through with these things that I learned from the critique of others and adding it to my writing where I can and not where I don't think I need to. So it's a process of staying open, even though it hurts a lot. This has not been pleasant, but mostly it has been. And I think that's the key thing I want to leave you with here is in creativity in my novel writing, it is primarily pleasant, wonderful expression, and I'm having a blast. But there is enough stuff that knocks me on my behind that it makes me not want to do it. But I keep doing it because I've learned that those pains are just part of the progress of growth. And on the other side of that pain is growth, and it is change, and it is humility and learning and humbling yourself to say like, hey, get rid of the idea that you're just going to be great at this. You're going to have to work at it just like everybody else. And that pain can be too great for some people. And if it's not, and you keep coming back to it, it's because you're supposed to. This is what you're supposed to do. The outcome, I don't know what that is. I don't know what it is for me. I have my goals. I have my vision. I'm writing to be professional. I'm writing to be published. There's no guarantee of that. I'm still doing it because I know it's good for me. And even if it's not this one, I hate saying that. I really want it to be this one because I love this book and I want it to be a series. And I know there's no guarantee. I know I'm not entitled to it being real. And maybe 5 books from now, I'll finally get one published. I don't know. I don't like it. But I accept it very hesitantly, but I know it's true, and right now I'm having a blast. Enjoy these moments because they don't last forever, but they always come back, and that's what I want to leave you with today. Whether it's in life or in creativity, the good times, the inspired times don't last forever, but they always come back. And keep hanging on, keep going, keep working, because they are coming back as long as you've put yourself in a position to receive that blessing that is creative inspiration. Thanks for stopping by. I hope that you'll come back from the next video. And until then, journey well, my friends.